Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Cone Racing League, your home for all the best racing here on PlayStation 4 and 5 on the F1 2021 game. I'm your regular host, CRL Freefall, joined by the lovely LFR Indigo, better known as Jamie, and we are here to present to you round number 13, season number 6, and of course it's a sprint race here in Baku, and my oh my Jamie, what a start to this sprint race, of course. One shot qualifying here, and look at that weather.
It's difficult enough one-shot qualified, especially a challenging circuit like this, 6 kilometers long. So let's see how the drivers manage to do in the wet conditions as well. So they've got about 20 turns to try and negotiate their way around. One-shot qualifying means one chance only for the drivers. Who can get it right? We'll see them. Could we see a change in the pecking order if one of those drivers could get a good lap time in and get into rhythm as quickly as they possibly can? We'll see them. But I can't wait already because, as you can see there, wet conditions. But you said you're going to go on board with what, didn't you?
Yeah, we're going to go on board with Mark. He's been looking to have some nice and mighty fine pace in the run-up to this Grand Prix, so we're going to stick on board with the Alfa Romeo driver. He's going down into turn 1 of 20 here, known unofficially as Lewis's corner, or of course brake magic number 1. Into turn 2, the second 90-degree corner on this track, takes you down the back road of Kurgani Street, Jamie. We're going to learn a little bit here about the local landmarks of Azerbaijan and maybe even learn a bit of Azerbaijan pronunciation here tonight. Down into turn number 3 then, another right-hander. This first sector really chock full of it. It's a defining characteristic of this first sector, these tight right-handers, and again another one of turn number 4. Heading up now, end of sector 1. Mark currently in P5 on these inters, up to P3 though, as he enters the little chicane at the end of sector 1, and now we're getting towards the really iconic part of this track here, Jamie. Going down what's effectively the same street or the same avenue as the start-finish street. You've got this nice little right-hander of 7 and up towards the pinnacle of this track, Jamie, the castle section. Tight and technical in the dry, tricky in the dry, and these guys are now doing it in intermediate conditions. Maybe Mark not the best choice for these conditions. Down in 7th at the moment, not showing the pace. The Bouter up near the top. Liam Carrag, Pease, Taze Leroy, but where is our championship leader? He's currently in P10. Of course, Jeroen got a chance to secure that title tonight as Mark bounces into the wall on the exit of turn number 15. He has got a chance to secure that title tonight, Jamie. 14 points over Wouter is all it will take for that championship to come home in the Williams of Jeroen this evening. Of course, we won't be speaking to him regardless what happens. He's currently a little bit under the weather, so on behalf of Cohen, and I'm sure the entire community, get well soon, Jeroen. But yes, here racing tonight, as is Mark. The man who was pegged for the pole position, I must admit, in all the sort of pre-race banter I've been involved in, can only come home with a 152.5, puts him P6 for the sprint race.
Yeah, good sprint race quality. Look at both McLarens up there, P2 and P5. Liam Carrag, unsurprisingly, in P1, he loves the wet conditions, and there he is there, proving yet again he's on pole position in his wet, like he was in the British GP, I think, in the sprint, where he took pole in the same conditions. It's an Irish one too, ahead of the Scotsman, Cameron Downs, and Wouter, the Dutchman in P4. With C, keep an eye on C this track as well. He won last time out in Baku. Mark in P6, Mr. BT in P7 on his return to racing. Ed Bompia in P8 ahead of Chivruvas as the championship leader. Total Ps in P10 with Rudy in P11, Joshua P12, Snell in P13, Tigriff P14, Pyro P15, Devuge P16, Nathan P17, Robbie, the only man that did not set a lap time, crashed I don't think he crashed or invalidated it, but I think he crashed because it's quite hard to invalidate turn 1 and turn 2, unless you do it on the outside, of course. But sadly, the only driver did not set a lap time. And you can see there's some people way off the pace, like 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. That's how much it proves to be difficult in these one-shot conditions. You gotta get into the groove as quickly as you can, because I know it takes some people like me to get into the groove with 2 or 3 laps on the board. But in one-shot qualifying, you're gonna be on it straight away. And as you can see there, they got a second chance potentially in this sprint race to try and make as many positions up as you can, ready for the actual race ahead of us.
Absolutely. Like you're saying there, the qualifying, one-shot qualifying, there's none of this going out, getting a feel in your out lap, maybe pushing on a banker lap before coming in, putting a fresh set of tyres on and going for the real deal. Every lap is the real deal because you only have one choice. Interesting though, only one driver not setting the lap there, you're saying. Lap turn 1 and 2, very tricky to invalidate, so I'd suspect it wasn't an invalidation, like you said. Possibly just running maybe a little deep, hitting that outside wall. It does sort of coming out of nowhere almost on the outside of turn 1, so maybe a place to watch out as we go into the first lap of this race, and of course the feature race. The setup tonight, of course, folks, we've had our one shot qualifying. Now we have a sprint race. Top 5 getting 5 points for first, all the way down to a single point for 5th. So this can have a bearing not only in the Drivers' Championship, but the Constructors' Championship. And of course, this grid has been set by the one shot. The sprint race final classification will set the grid for the 50% race. 13 laps here in this sprint race. No safety cars available, but of course the drivers still needing to make one stop. A little mistake without that safety car can really cost you a lot here, and getting the strategy call right, because realistically, tyre wear isn't going to be an issue for these guys. We all really know, in the community I suppose, 25% tyre wear is never an issue. Soft, medium, easily doable for everybody. It's when do you choose to pit?
Exactly, you can see World Gamer in P5 on those medium compound tyres, hit bumpier also P on those mediums, so quite a few people have gone for the mediums, majority of the softs, but the alternate strategy is not going to be really powerful because it's only 13 laps, and not many laps you can make up on the soft compound tyres towards the end of the race, so we'll see. Maybe they might pit early, those medium runners, and go on the soft compound tyres like lap 3 or lap 4. That does work sometimes, but we'll see then how long these guys will go for the soccer pod tyres. Liam Carrack and Cameron Downs, the last time we had a sprint race, those two had a really dinged up battle between those two. Taze Leroy as well in P2 didn't have the best of races in Imola, neither did Abu Dhabi, but nice to see him up there in P2. And Seymour Gamer won last time out in Baku. He loves this track, so we'll keep an eye on him in P5. A lot of people looking at Mark as well, so let's see then what happens here tonight. Championship leader currently down in P9. Same in the sprint quality, the British GP. Total Piers and Giroud Visa couldn't really hook it up at the British GP last time out when it was a sprint, so it must be a sprint qualified issue. I think it'll be definitely for me as well, because it takes longer for me to get into the groove. It's just for one lap. One lap is a really big challenge here, especially trying to find the limits of the track. And you're going into unknown territory when it comes to the wet conditions or dry conditions, because you don't know what the track actually feels like. So you just got to be careful the way you do it. But be as quick as possible without hitting the walls or invalidating it. But all the drivers, they're making their way towards the grid.
18 cars here tonight, folks. 2 unavailable. I don't believe we've got any reserves in her, though I could be wrong. Do not quote me on that. But all 18 now going to line up on this grid, of course. A famous grid. We've seen many mighty incidents over the years take place exactly within this camera shot here, of course. Verstappen's puncture, the Red Bulls coming together, and of course the sprint where Stroll narrowly missing out on P2 but getting his first podium. There's been plenty of action here. Plenty of action as well on Monday night in Tier 3 and Tier 4. I know a few of the boys from those races in the comments watching here tonight. They'll be keen to see some more of that, but it is 4-5 red lights. And we are underway for the sprint race here in Baku for round number 13 of CRL season number 6. Cameron Downs getting a mighty jump on the McLaren of Leroy, and Bouter going around the outside of the Irishman as well. Leroy down 2 positions already. Mark getting the jump on Sieb, Wouter and Tees, though going side by side, and Tees retaking that position down into turn number 2. Jeroen and Pease getting the jump on Boompe further back, but apart from that, getting through the start pretty clean, Jamie.
Yeah, Seymour Gamer got a decent start.
Saying that, sorry Jamie, just to jump in, a bit of a collision further back. I believe that was ESWGR outbreaking himself, and then Snell collecting into the back of him. That's a front wing going for ESWGR, and looks to me like a retirement on track. Sorry Jamie, back to yourself.
Taze Leroy didn't get the best of starts off the line, couldn't get the traction he wanted, and he lost to track position towards Cameron Dow. So Cameron up into second place there, right behind Liam Carab. We saw those two have a really good scrap as they all made their way now into the castle station really cleanly following the Rouge up the rear. But Seymour Gamer also had a decent start in P6, not dropping too many positions crucially for him. He dropped one of them, but that was expected being on the medium compound tyres. Let's see if he can stay there for the remainder of this race. And Mr. BT getting very close to the wall there. He was a ghost a few moments ago. Nathan getting past his Aston Martin teammate of Robbie there. And they're both moving as well. But on different strategies, both Aston Martins, and Snell using all the track that he should have, going very wide indeed, coming out on turn 18. And we're making our way into turn 20. Look at Wouter on the back of Taze Leroy. They're looking to take away P3 very early doors in this race. And he gets past him. But Giroud Visa, in fact, Taze is in the pit lane, so did he make contact there? Or is he going for an early undercut, go from soft to medium straight away, because I dare say the mediums could definitely go towards the end. So I'll keep an eye on that. But there's a massive battle going into turn 1. And look at that, to Griffith spawn. Oh, there's a massive crash further behind. That was Het Bompje who smashed it to the side onto Griff. To Griff spawned because of Pyro going into turn 1. Then Het Bompje was there to collect the pieces. But Taze Leroy then on a brand new set of medium compound tyres, getting rid of those soft compound tyres immediately. And let's see then how his strategy pans out. But yeah, interesting strategy call from the Irishman in P17. Lots going on down at turn 1, but sadly Het Bompje has front wing damage.
Yeah, I think another person, I think Taze Leroy did pick up front wing. I had a little quick flick through there. Maybe missed out some of the action at turn 1, but it did look like Taze has picked up some front wing damage. Robbie going for a move on the Haas of Snail into the middle sector chicane. Not quite, he did quite get hit. Or was it Robbie and DeRoy now? Maybe Snail, I'm saying just names for the sake of it. They're going into the castle section though. Snail ahead of DeRoy. I think I'm getting the arrows and the intervals mixed up. We've seen a few commentators do that in the past, and normally I'm the one calling them out for it, so a nice little change. Yellow flags though, and Boompier is out of this race. Getting boys with Taze Leroy. I believe that is at the castle section. And another retirement further up, it's Mr. BT losing it on the exit of turn number 15 into the wall on the left hand side. They are dropping like flies. 2 laps down, 3 cars out, 16 runners for this sprint race left.
Quite unusual for a sprint race like this. Like, they're all going for it, and sadly we've lost 3 of them. Mr. BT, ILT Bompje loses it at the castle section there, and sadly Mr. BT is the latest to go. So a lot going on in the early parts of this race. But when you talk about Robbie and Snell, Snell was ahead of Robbie, but Snell had a lock-up coming into turn number 5. It compromised his entry into turn 6, and Robbie was able to go around the outside and claim to go to the pit lane, so I can't exactly what positions they were in. But De Rouge tried to go around the outside, but there was no room for it, and had to stay behind it. But he's under pressure now. Is to Griff from De Rouge right behind us on the medium compound tyres, so he's going to pull to the right hand side and going to make that overtake. But you can see a lot of people. He's on the curb, and that's never going to end well. Is De Rouge breaking? You don't want to break on the curb because it'll send you into the wall, or you'll lose the rear of the car. So you be very careful not to touch that outside curb while braking, especially when you use no ABS as well, because the rears will just lock up on you, and therefore you'll go off of the track. But De Rouge, they're very lucky to escape from that, and Troyer has joined, so nice to see him make up the 90 cars. Very late Troyer, but he'll start at the back of the grid then, and with Joshua in P18. But at the front of the field then, Cameron Downs, looks like none of these guys are pitted just yet, as Nathan has made a move on Pyro. Where's that? That's in the usual place. I think Pyro has made a mistake. I think he lost some of his front wing. Yes, he has. Pyro has lost a part. He's lost all of it. He hasn't broken it. He's lost it. So Pyro then is missing the nose, and sadly for him, will have to come to the end of the pit lane. So quite a lot of people making mistakes in the streets of Baku, aren't they, Scott?
Yeah, a lot of people, of course. Any other circuit you can run wide, get away with it, maybe pick yourself up a warning or a 3-second time penalty. You run wide here in Baku, you're going straight into the wall. It's almost the Monaco of Asia, of course, right in the cusp of Europe and Asia. It's a little bit more of a high-speed circuit than Monaco in some ways, but it's just as punishing. Valter, though, the first of the front runners, pitting from, I believe, was that P3 into the pits, 3 laps on those softs. I don't believe he's had any wing damage. He's not really been much of a battle. So going for the early strategy called the undercut. I do know it's very strong around here. Early discussions from the drivers earlier on today in their sort of pace and practice tests saying about 2 seconds advantage on the undercuts. That's all, of course, judging on you hooking up your in lap, your out lap, and not making any daft, silly little mistakes. But some bright and early strategy calls going on here. I did this race on Monday night. Now, I thought I was being the smart one. I went for the overcut, Jamie. Now, that just showed how little research I'd done. It cost me. I ended up actually spinning on the worn softs, losing my front wing. So I know the pain that these guys are going through, the strategy calls, trying to keep it out of the wall. And we'll not speak any further of what's happened to that race because it's I'm choosing to forget it now. But Liam Carrick losing out to Cameron Downs for the provisional lead there. I don't know if that was a mistake or if Cameron just lining up a move very, very nicely. A very unusual place yet again.
Yeah, it's got to be a mistake from Liam Craig. It was coming out of the castle section with Cameron, so he must have lost the rear end of the car, but thankfully did hit the wall, so he's got another life to live on, has Liam Craig. But will these guys opt to go in the pit lane now? Because you see Walter's pitted, he's rejoined in P11 with clear air he could push into, and it's quite clear that Taze Leroy did have front wing damage, otherwise it'd be the back of Walter or ahead of him with that early pit stop. But let's see there, these guys go to the left hand side, and let's see, they're going to have to pit. I don't think one of them will stay out there. Mark's in the pit lane, and Seymour Gamer will continue on those medium compound tyres, and they'll take the lead of this race. And let's see where Walter rejoins in comparison to this. Then Liam Correct, they're making his way into the pit lane on a brand new set of mediums. We're all going to keep an eye on Walter now, and let's see, does he rejoin? Is the undercut that powerful? Did he get? I think might rejoin ahead of Liam, but behind Cameron. Let's see then as we make our way into turn number 1. Look to the left hand side, and they've got ahead of both of them. So that undercut there for Walter has really worked for him. Cameron Downs then will pick up the DRS at the back of Walter, and Mark there just rejoining right behind Liam. So yeah, the undercuts work powerfully. Point proven by you, Scott. And yeah, I've experienced this track plenty of times as well. The one tyre you don't want to go on is a hard compound tyre because it just doesn't have the grip whatsoever to go on the hard. But so DeRouge in P12 on a set of the soft compound tyres. I think he started on those mediums and has gone to a set of softs then. So expect him to be rapid towards the last few parts of this race. But Javruva set and Pease then expect them to pit very shortly.
Yeah, but surprised if we don't see Jeroen and Pease in very, very shortly. Probably even this lap. Like you're saying there with the tyre strategy. Scottish writing the words there, trying to smash them all together and say them as quick as I could there. But yeah, you're saying the hards, definitely not the tyre to be on. 2-stop, potentially the more advantageous strategy. Of course, a soft medium is possible around here. Safety cars have a big thing to play in that. The mediums can easily go about 3/4 the length of the Grand Prix. The softs, although not nice towards the end of their tyre life, when they get to about 50-60%, they are still doable. Of course, they will lose a lot of pace. They will put you at risk if you make a mistake bending into that wall, but it is still doable. The last of the soft runners, or the starting soft runners, I should say, now into the pits with Jeroen and Pease. We're on board with Cameron Downs as the intervals have decided to just go on a little holiday for this lap. That old Codemasters glitch that we've seen last year is, of course, back. Wouter, though, the flashing red light on the rear of that Haas tells us he is derating, low on ERS, and we're on board with Cameron here, 80% ERS, and the Red Bull, the Mercedes rear wing going to be wide open. I can't speak for the life of me tonight, Jamie. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, too many beers down you, eh?
Not yet. I'm just on the first one.
Oh, I can't imagine you later on though. But look at Liam Corrag towards Cameron Downs. The gap is 1.8 seconds. So Cameron Downs has pulled away big time away from Liam Corrag. He's putting pressure on Walter. Like you said, Walter used a lot of EOS to try and stay ahead of Cameron Downs. But Pease and Giroud then rejoined down in P8 and P9 off the back of this battle for P6. So Liam Corrag then is unfortunately a DRS provider to all those guys behind. I think Mark overtaken Liam Corrag last lap. Liam got him back into turn number 3 with the help of DRS. So Liam got himself back past ahead of Mark, but sadly he's too far away from these guys, and it's very hard to close in as well. When you're in that position, think about more defending than to close in, because it's so hard to try and close in, especially when the guys ahead of you have DRS. It's just one of those things where you have to use a lot of EOS, and if you don't manage to get in that gap, it's very hard to save EOS later as well. But you can see C4 Gamer and Rudy will Nathan follow in as well. I think he will do. Yes, he is. Nathan is in. No, he's not. He stayed out. But look at Cameron Downs then. Yeah, it's an easy move, I must say. No competition, because Cameron Downs has got way more EOS than Walter. But what Walter can do is, he didn't have to hit. He didn't want to hit the back of him. But what Walter can do is just sit behind Cameron Downs and try and save some EOS. I might go for it later when he's set up for a net P2. I'm not quite sure, but Walter's done a good job so far. All he's going to do is sit behind Cameron Downs, try and regenerate some of that lost battery, and see what he can do from there. But Liam Correct there right behind Mark. As Mark's derates on the straight, Liam looks to go down the inside, but he backs out of that one. And not enough room to go down the inside of there, so he stays behind, but it must be paid in the likes of Pease and Giroud. But got to watch out now for Pease and Giroud, because C4 Gamer and Rudy are on the set of sauce. But interestingly, C4 Gamer was first to go in the pit lane out of those guys, but Rudy's managed to rejoin ahead of him somehow. So I'm not quite sure what happened there for the McLaren crew. The C4 Gamer then sadly rejoined down in P10 behind his teammates. So I wonder if he picked up from wind damage, did see, because he's rejoined right behind Taze Leroy. Taze Leroy was 4 seconds behind Rudy, so he's lost a lot of time in the pit lane, the C4 Gamer. So I dare say it's from wind damage.
Yeah, I assume so. We know how easy, but also how devastating it is to get that very, very lightest of green front wing damage. Let's have a little look at the comments quickly then, Jamie. We've got some big support tonight. Some usual names, of course. Bailiff, our Tier 4 title contender, picking up the win here in Tier 4 on Monday night. 40 points in the bag. Should have been up on the podium with him, but I'll say less about that. Panda, the legend that is Chris Panda, the Flying Welshman, of course, a team member of the same organisation as ESWG, or the Esports Wales drivers, in here. High and mighty in the chat, and of course, celebrations ongoing in the north of Scotland right now. When we saw Cameron going for that move, as Liam Carrick goes for a move on Mark down into turn 1. Now Jeroen is side by side, won't have entry, or well, he's going for it, he's sticking his nose on the inside into turn 2. And here's Pease as well, having a look around the outside, but they're all going to settle in. Mark, of course, getting the DRS off Liam Carrick. Pease and Jeroen side by side, down onto the run into turn number 3. Pease brings slightly earlier and having to succeed position to Jeroen, who has to give up his attack on Mark. But back to that, celebrations in the north of Scotland. My fellow compatriot, I believe his name is either James, Jim or John. It is, of course, Cameron's dad, and I love that that is his YouTube name.
Hello, Cameron's dad. Nice to see you in the chat as always, supporting your son. And yeah, me and him have had plenty of battles on the track, and Cameron Dow's dad has witnessed it before. He calls me a good driver, but very inconsistent. I'll take that any day from the likes of Cameron's dad. But yeah, that was a good battle between 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Keep it nice and clean as well, especially the tight corners in turn 1 and turn 2. Back in 2017, when we saw in turn number 2 where Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon came together and both ended up losing the chances of winning the race potentially, or picking up the podium, because Lewis Hamilton had that head seat issue and Sebastian Vettel picked up a 10-second time penalty due to slamming into Lewis Hamilton on a safety car due to disagreements. But yeah, kept it nice and clean, those two drivers of Jeroen and Pease, and onto the straight we go then yet again. Walter 1.5 seconds up behind Cameron Dow, so he's dropped out the 1 second range of DRS as Walter. Nathan eventually pits this lap as Jeroen was then all over the back of Mark, both trying to use the ERS. They're both very low on ERS. Liam Carrack defended the inside line, but are we going to go 3 wide into turn 1? Yes, we are. Jeroen was down the inside. Mark goes around the outside, and Liam has to back out. In fact, Liam takes back both positions, but Liam then into P4, 3 goes. Jeroen Vizor then has the DRS on Liam Carrack. Mark outbroke himself off into turn 1, allowed Jeroen and Liam to go back through, but Jeroen Vizor comes back on Liam Carrack and takes P3 away from. What a battle between that. But Mark then, the biggest loser out of all that, dropping down back into P5. Liam Carrack there, what a comeback he did, going back down the inside of both of them, but eventually lost out to Jeroen with the help of DRS. And Taze Leroy swapping positions with Sieb. Those two are how to fight. You expect Sieb to be quicker than Leroy, being on those soft compound tyres especially, but Leroy's got himself back ahead of the McLaren driver. Pyro ahead of T-Grip.
Yeah, mighty battle there going on between those 3, and all that's done now. Well, P's losing out to Rudy as well there. That's inviting Rudy right into the mix here for this battle. He's on the fresh softs against the slightly older mediums. That red Ferrari with those red striped softs looking mighty quick, and he's taking advantage of a little mistake there by Mark coming out of the castle section and moves swiftly up into P5. Of course, the battle of the points here at the moment. Wouter currently in P2. Cameron Downs well clear of this Grand Prix, firm favourite for taking the victory in the sprint race, as Snell has made a mistake in the castle section. I believe that might be a broken front wing for him. But Wouter at the moment only outscoring Jeroen 4 points to 3. 1 point advantage for Wouter. If Jeroen over the course of this evening outscores Wouter by 14 or more points, the championship will be going to the Williams garage. At the moment, he's still got plenty of work to do to make that happen. Mark getting a run back at Rudy, both very low on battery, and in fact here comes Pease down. Mark's inside, didn't even see the Mercedes there. Now they're side by side on the entry into turn number 2. Pease having the inside, Mark on the outside, and Mark having to cede position there, tuck back inside. But all the drivers here very low on ERS. It strikes me as a weird track, as in there is heavy braking zones, as Liam Carrick tries to make a move in Jeroen but can't quite make it work. Heavy braking zones where you can regain ERS, but it's so powerful in the straights and sometimes so necessary to use. And even just without using it, going from that final corner to turn 1, you can easily use about 15 to 20%.
Yeah, you can, and Jeroen Vizor then under massive pressure. Rudy's joined into the battle. Thanks to those two fighting, Rudy was able to close in, and he's round the back of these two. So Rudy might find himself picking up some decent points and started in P3 behind Walter and Cameron Downs. But Cameron Downs that undoubled at the front But while Jeruvas has also done a fantastic job as well, started from P9 or P10 at the grid and finds himself in P3. That's what happens in the sprint quality race. You have another second chance, it must be said, and Jeruvas has used it well. But still got a lot to work to do in these 4 laps because he's got Liam right behind him. Really's on the soft compound tyres, a massive DRS train from P3 downwards then, as Liam gets a good run coming out of the final corner. Let's see that in these fast left to final 2 corners, turn 18, turn 19, and turn 20, the last corner. He's right behind him, and I think we'll definitely get past him on this occasion. But look at Pease, he's right behind Rudy. Rudy has to use that ERS because Pease is right behind him. They go side by side as Liam and Giroud. Liam ahead, and here comes Rudy. They want to take 2 for 1. They'll take one of them down the inside, which is Giroud, as he goes side by side into turn 1. Looks like Giroud's got a better exit on the outside line, able to counter speed. So good defense there from Giroud, keeping hold of 4th place ahead of Rudy. Rudy's got 2 laps to left if he wants to start at P3 on those soft compound tyres. But yeah, Giroud then right at the back of Liam Crab. Will he get him into turn number 3? No, he doesn't. He stays behind for the time being, too far back to make any move. But Mark in the worst place of it, down in P7, because all of the guys ahead of DRS, and essentially there's no advantage for Mark. He's just stuck in that DRS train, and that's what happens when sadly when you fall back down the order. But Pease and Giroud has done a fantastic job so far. Walters has done a good job as well in P2, being nice and quiet behind Cameron Downs. But it's a shame for C4 Game. What could he have done if he didn't have that problem in the pit stop? I'm not going to assume it's forward damage. It could be anything else as well. But yeah, C4 Game with P9 sadly for him could join in this battle and make his way up the order because he loves this track. He's right behind Taze Leroy, his teammate. Both McLarens P8 and P9 where they didn't want to start. They both started P2 and P5, but sadly both having their own issues at the very early parts of this race. But lap 11 out of 13, then Liam Karag making his way down towards the left-hander now. He struggling with ERS, so is the guys behind. But I think Rudy has the best ERS out of all of them, so he can start to use that battery more than Giroud. But he's closed in on Giroud then. Looks like Liam has pulled away a bit, 8/10 away from Liam Karag. And Giroud's D-way to the straight. Rudy knows it, so he can try and get past him on this lap. As we head onto lap 12 out of 13, 2 laps left to go. Then it's a drag race all the way down into turn 1 as they both have DRS at the back of Liam. There's Pease in the background lurking as we go down into turn 1 then and see who gets out ahead. And it's this time Rudy makes the move, but there's Pease on the inside of Giroud. Down the inside he goes into turn 2, makes it stick and moves himself up into P5. Good overtakes there from both Pease and Rudy. And Rudy then in a good position because on the last lap he'll be right behind Liam. And on those soft compound tyres can benefit them and utilise them to go up to P3, and he might start there. So looking good for Rudy so far.
But a cracking battle this P3 all the way down to P7. Really, really good battle and some good defensive driving strategy calls. The full works, and yet not one of them has made contact or caused any sort of damage to one of their competitors. This is what league racing and racing in general is all about. Big shame for Mark there. Bailiff making an absolute amazing comment. Relentless Mark is relentless in being the biggest bottle job on the grid. Absolutely, that is a cracking one, Bailiff. I must say, you're in just outside that 1 second now to P, so maybe a little mistake from the championship leader at the moment. As it stands, Wouter gaining an extra 4 points over Jeroen's, not as Mark makes contact with the wall. Hopefully for his sake, there's no damage on that Alfa Romeo's front wing. And Jeroen pulling off to the side, getting behind Mark, knowing that he doesn't have the DRS from Pease, letting Mark get past, and now he's going to have DRS in Mark. That is ultra amazing mind games. Getting a good run now with ERS, DRS, and he's going to try and use this DRS to essentially slingshot himself as far up as he can. It's not going to be enough, and he's going to really drop out of this train. It'll now be a 3-man train. The battle for P3. P's right in the back of Rudy, who is right on the back of Liam Carrig. Tigriff having a battle with Pyro further down, and then the battle for Taze Leroy, Nathan JB, and Seeb. Taze and Seeb both starting well. Seeb, we've seen him at times have really good qualifyings and just have a poor first stint that really knocks him all untoward. Nathan overtaking Taze Leroy down into turn number 3. Leroy having that wing damage. It really is a case of what could have been for the McLarens, but they've got 26 more laps to try and do something more. Elsewhere, further up the field, Cameron Downs coming through the castle section for the last time of this sprint race Grand Prix. Big Jim, as I've now confirmed his name, will be sitting celebrating up in the Highlands of Scotland. It's quite interesting that. It must be a Scottish thing, because my dad watches my races and all, and I think he's actually watching tonight. So shout out to Rab Freefall. I hope he's in the comments somewhere before. Maybe we could get a 1v1 dad off in the Scottish teams, Jamie.
Hello, Scott's dad. Nice to see you in the chat. Yeah, Cameron Dow's done fantastic job, and taking away the race lead ahead of Liam Carrag and defending for Walter as well. So Cameron Dow's there making his way towards the last corner as he's using all the ERS on the straight. He can celebrate here. A long straight. We saw Valtteri Bottas outdrive Lawrence Stroll in 2017. Cameron Downs wins the sprint race ahead of Walter. Good job from him, as Liam actually finishes in P3, Rudy in P4, Pease in P5, Giroud in P6, Mark in P7, Nathan JB in P8. Look at both McLarens going side by side. I think Siebes beat his teammate. No, Taze Leroy beats him. I thought Sieb had a nose ahead of Leroy, but unless penalties, if one of them spits up a penalty, I'm not quite sure if they have, but it was definitely Seymour Gamer who finished ahead of Tage Leroy. Was that the same case for you?
Yeah, it was for me. I mean, even now they're going around the circuit, so whether Sieb had a penalty of some sort, I know Nathan had a penalty, saw him drop behind the two McLarens, but I'm not too sure with that, whether maybe one of them disconnected slightly and that was that bug where it adds time on, but
Yeah.
if that's the case, regardless, this will be the grid for the Grand Prix. It's very hard to steward in between these races, so sadly no time penalties going to be added to this finishing of the race. Maybe added later on, which may affect the top 5 in the case of penalties. On board with Snell, as he gives us a little wiggle towards the line. And the last man to cross the line tonight is Robbie. Now, not unfamiliar territory for Robbie, starting a feature race in the bottom part of the grid. But we've seen it before. Will we see it again? Will the Aston Martin claw his way up through the field over the course of the next 26 laps and make it to the podium?
Aston Martin have had an up and down season so far. They scored, I think, 2 legitimate podiums now. They could have had 5 of them, but got taken away. But yeah, Nathan and Robbie, I think, both have 1 podium each, and they could have got way more. But Aston Martin then down in, we know what Robbie could do from the back of the field. Australia, Monza, other races as well, USA. But can he do it again down at P15? He's got some really good race pace, has Robbie, so hopefully he can show it. But Cameron Downs then, hopefully somebody can challenge him during the race. If not, I'll have to step in.
Up the ante of the grid and show the young Scotsman's how it done. But he's been a force to be reckoned with since he's made his comeback, of course. Quite a big driver on the scene, quite a young driver on the scene. Fun fact, he's exactly half my age, and I think I've got half my age and a little bit to spare on him. An interesting one, but he does take P1 here tonight ahead of the Dutchman of Wouter. He's picking up 4 points in this championship battle. Liam Carrig finally turning a good qualifying position into a decent race finishing position. He'll pick up 3 points for the Red Bull team, picking up that P3. Rudy, a good charge through the field from P11 up to P number 4, with P's from P10 to P5 slightly behind him. Jeroen up 3 places to P6. Mark starting 1 down from where he started at the sprint race. P7 having a little bit of disaster. Leroy and Sieb, the McLarens, not having a race to remember, as Nathan JB, T-Griff, Pyro, DeRoy, Snell and Robbie are the last of your finishers for this sprint Grand Prix. Mr. BT and I believe it was ESW and Boompier did not finish the Grand Prix, and Troy A joining late will round off our 19 for the feature race tonight. Now, Jamie, we do have a small intermission here. Give the drivers, I suppose, a chance to rest up, maybe have a comfort break, get a nice little drink. All in all, all together. Lucky for some, we don't quite have that comfort, but in the meantime, we're going to waffle through and do our best to keep you folks entertained until we get to 9:20 BST PM tonight. 9 minutes time, we'll be kicking off this feature race. So, I suppose on my agenda, first thing we can have a review of that sprint race, Jamie. McLaren's disaster, a good charge through the field from the likes of Pease, Rudy and Jeroen. I suppose it sort of sets the stage of what we might expect for the next 26 laps when we get this feature race underway.
Yeah, I think you heard about that one, Scott, mate. And in terms of Pease, Jeroen was a sort of P9 and Pease did a good job to claw the way up the field. People anticipated Martin to be up there, but sadly he dropped backwards. And both McLarens, sadly for them, they went down the field after Nero sustained foot wind damage, and something happened in the pit lane with Seb. Not quite sure what, but if he did have foot wind damage, he did a fantastic job to stay in first place and not lose too much time when he was out there on his medium run. But Seymour Gamer was quite opposite what he had in Spain and in other races as well in Austria, where he fell down the field quite a lot from starting up further up in the grid. But this time, he managed to set into a rhythm really quickly, but unfortunately something else happened. So hopefully Seb can sort it out and come back stronger in the next race with 26 laps to go. But yeah, I can't wait for this one. It's going to be a thriller. Austria, we saw 3 people retire, Mr. BT, and a few other people dropping out as well. So let's see if safety cars might play a factor towards this race as well. Plenty of safety cars can essentially change the whole phase of the race, and the pendulum might swing towards other people's way. And let's see then what will happen in the next coming 26 laps.
I definitely expect Burt Maylander to make an appearance this evening. From experience, and by experience I mean the Tier 4 race on Monday night, we started off with 19 cars. We crossed the line with 9. 3 safety cars, maybe even 4 if I remember right. It was a very, very action-packed, and of course it's Tier 4. Maybe some moves going on that weren't quite on, some battles that maybe weren't quite needing to be battles, but that's what we love about T4. It's a bit more rugged, a bit more less rounded, but still the same energy and still the same heart. A lot of drivers that raced in that tonight in the comments, thank you all for joining us. But of course this next lap has got the full points potential of any other race that we've had this season. Of course, round number 13, a quick look at the calendar before we get onto the standards. Number 13, here in the Baku City Circuit in Azerbaijan. We've been all around the world to Australia, France, Italy, USA, Brazil, the United Kingdom, Portugal, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Austria, Abu Dhabi, and then back to Italy. And now we're here in Azerbaijan, the final sprint race of the season. 2 legendary tracks, despite what you may think on one or the other coming up. Of course, the legendary, historic, currently getting revamped track of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, a home race for a few drivers here in CRL, of course. Calcoen, Milios, I can't pronounce his name, I'm not very good at the old Belgian. And of course, the fan favourite of Wild Dog, our 3 Belgian drivers at their home Grand Prix next week. And after that, the season finale, we head to the Bahrain International Circuit. Of course, been on the calendar since 2004. Was the opening round for a few seasons, I believe. Was it 2004 to about 2008? Jamie, you'll have a better knowledge of that on me. Whether your feelings are on those sort of circuits, they're both historic in one way or another. Seen plenty of action, plenty of excitement, and I think that'll follow through in this grid.
Bahrain Grand Prix, I think it was the opening round of 2010 where they had that older circuit layout where it took much longer to get around the track. I remember playing on the F1 2010 game and it took a long time to get around the track. I don't even know the layout, but yeah, it's got multiple layouts, has the Bahrain Grand Prix, and yeah, it's a good track in general. Good for overtaking. We've seen some classic battles there before as well, and Ferrari won 2 back in 2010 between Fernando Alonso and Felipe Massa. We got another one as well with Leclerc and Carlos Sainz with 2 years later, 12 years later. Yeah, it's generally some good overtaking. It's a good track as well. We missed it in 2011 due to yeah, I think it's riots as well.
It was political instability, shall we say? I think that's a very, very PG way to say it.
I had to be careful what to say there, but yeah, they came back on the calendar in 2012, and Sebastian Vettel won those races as well in his Red Bull days. Then we came to the Mercedes era, and Hamilton won against Rosberg in 2014. And in 2015, Hamilton won again, and Rosberg won in 2016. I think Vettel won in 2017 and 18, and Vettel had to do a 1-stop in 2018 because his Ferrari mechanics, one of them was injured, and Vettel had to stay out there due to Raikkonen not get out of the pit lane safely. But yeah, I like Bahrain. Hope it stayed on the calendar until 2036, and blimey, I'll be like, how old will I be then? 10, 20, 30, 34 years old.
30, are you sure 34, 30, 36? I didn't think you were that young, Jamie, because 30, 36, I will be the grand old age of 39. Making me feel old now, pal. I'll be the likes of I'll be the likes of maybe the Fandango, the Murphy, the McConey in this league. And I hope when we get to that point, we're still racing and those guys are still about. Absolute legends. Shout out to those three. Big part of the community. I always like to get the historic boys in. A few bits more in the chat. Nathan JB saying, imagine getting a speeding penalty. So that's where his penalty came up from. Speeding into the pits on the sprint race. A lesson learned maybe for the future race for the head admin. Liam Carragh saying, hello boys. Hope you're all having a good evening. We're having an amazing evening, Liam. Some good racing by yourself there. Wish you the best of luck for the feature race, along with the other 18 drivers on the grid. And of course, Cameron's dad getting in saying hi to Liam. We love to see it. But standings next, Jamie. Let's take a wee look at them. Of course, the big thing, the championship battle. 69 points separating P1 and P2 going into this Grand Prix tonight. Valter getting a P2 in the sprint race to Jeroen's P6 means he picks up an additional 4 points, meaning the gap shrinks to 65 points. Of course, the next two races, a total of 82 points available. So, if Jeroen can stretch that gap to 83 points, which by my calculations, I think it is 18 points he needs, in an 18-point advantage, sorry, in this feature race tonight to secure the title tonight. Very, very unlikely. Not going to put any pressure on unless there's some carnage, some entertainment, and a bit of madness, shall we say. Peas really needs a good feature race here to restore his chances at a title hope. An outside contender, you must say, at this stage. Firmly favourite is Jeroen Valter with an outside chance, and Peas with an even more outside chance. Rudy in the Ferrari P4, 188 points for him. He's been on a little bit of a late charge here, overtaking the likes of Mark and Nathan JB in recent weeks, showing some good pace. Speaking of those two, Nathan and Mark are your P5 and P6, 163 and 153. So a nice little battle going on between those two for top 5. Mark, of course, having his sights set on that P4. Andres and Ferg, the two Alpine drivers, I believe both of them out tonight, unable to play. Of course, Ferg supporting his local team in the form of West Ham in the Europa League. Understandable why he's not here tonight. And then surprise package, Cameron Downs only appearing here at the Silverstone Grand Prix on this grid. He's 119 points in the top 10, beating the likes of T. Griff, Robbie, AG Wuhan, C. Bumpy, Liam Carrick, Troy, Pyro, ESWJR, and Taze Leroy, and Snail, of course. Snail, a new driver to the grid, making his debut last week, but just showing the pace he's got, that he's racked up 119 points in about 4 races. Mighty impressive, Jamie.
Yeah, it is bad. Time I know Cameron Downs, he's got faster and faster and more consistent as well. So yeah, he's really going to be a really consistent fast driver, and like most of the drivers are. It's gonna be if Cameron Downs is racing next season with the likes of Walter, Javruva, Rudy as well. Rudy's always an interesting driver to keep an eye on. He's very quick and very aggressive, it must be said. So I love to see Rudy up there because he is one of the quickest drivers up there. But in terms of consistency, has made a few errors now and then, but hopefully he can rectify them next season or in the next upcoming races because he's still a challenger in this league as well. Taze Leroy as well, he's also done a fantastic job, but he's made a few mistakes along the way. And to see Raw Gamer, he's there and thereabouts. He could pick up a few podiums now and then. Who else we got? We've got like the likes of Pyro. He took a pole position in Spain, but sadly he picked up a drive-through penalty. And yeah, he just could get to grips on the other races we've had so far, but I think he's got the pace. He just needs to find the rhythms and get into a groove in this league. It's just tier one. There's a lot of expectations and a lot of fast drivers, and gonna really settle in before you can start to attack those guys ahead. But we're going into the race right now, and let's see the tyre strategies that everybody's going to go for. Is it going to be the softs or the mediums? I don't think nobody has gone for the hard compound tyres because the hard tyres is particularly not a good tyre around here or any other circuit, it must be said. Barely gets used to hard compound tyres. You only see them when people make mistakes on the first opening lap and they hope for a safety car later on and switch on the mediums or the softs. But if I just see then what's going to happen. Can Martin get a good start off the line, try to take Cameron Downs into turn one? We'll see then, as we've got 10 seconds left in the session. What can Liam Carrick do in P3? Had some good race pace towards the end and managed to fend off Rudy. I thought Rudy would have got him, those soft compound tyres towards the end, but Liam, fantastic job to defend from Rudy on that soft compound tyre. But here we go then, into the session. And let's see, it's the dry conditions. I bet that all drivers are thankful for that, but we don't know the weather. Like the drivers themselves don't know the weather. It's kind of unknown territory here because they don't know it's going to rain later on. They're not in the garage with the computers and the weather radar. They're just going to go to the session and they're going to choose what tires are going to go on. They don't know if it's going to rain later, other than pressing the radio button on lap one. So yeah, we don't even know what the weather's like either. Could be raining towards the end or middle.
Must admit, it is looking a little bit overcast, I think, is the word. It's not the brightest day we've ever seen here around the city of Baku, sorry, the capital of Azerbaijan. Not the brightest we've seen, not the wettest we've seen. Of course, we've already had enter conditions in the short quali, and of course dry in the the sprint race ahead of this feature race. But looking dry at the moment. Somebody selected their strategy, made sure they've got their setup on. Of course, another thing with this feature race, they've got a chance now. If the setup wasn't quite right, if something didn't feel quite 100%, they can tweak, they can modify, they can make some little changes. Strategy, of course, will be key around here. Expect everybody, I would say, to be honest, the ideal strategy here, Jamie, start on the softs. And if a safety car comes out anywhere from about lap 3 onwards, you've got a free pit stop and you can do a 2-stop, medium to the end. I'll be surprised if we don't see anything different than that. Of course, we may see a few cars opting for that alternative strat, and indeed we have Taze Leroy and Seeb, the two McLarens, opting for the mediums. Tigriff, the Ferrari driver, opting for the mediums as well. He starts off in P11, and the man in grid position number 19, Troye, missing out on the one shot and the sprint race. This will be a real trial by fire as he's straight into this feature race here on the medium tyres, starting all the way back in P19. But the rest of the grid, 15 cars, starting on those softs. An early safety car could play dividends for them, but if it doesn't, if they have to stay out, it's a big choice of where and when do you pit.
Yeah, both McLarens then, both one of them will have to stay out longer than the other because they're both on the same strategy, of course. But yeah, the top guys, I expected to go on the soft compound tires. They don't want to be in the medias because if someone's on the soft, you might drop further back. But interesting, then the guys outside the top 10 are on the soft compound tires, so not a lot of variety going on down there in the midfield with the softs and medias. But Troye then, I think he'll be struggling quite a lot because the guys have just basically that sprint qualifying race was like a practice session to them, so they've had the feel for the track, they know where to push. And Troye, who's just joined in this race, will not have that information and confidence in the first few opening laps where the guys ahead of him have. So that'll be struggling just a little bit there. But Cameron Downs making his way towards the left-hander. Let's see then how much chaos there is in this race. Will it be the same in the sprint? Because we see 3 people went out in the first few laps, such as Mr. BT. Joshua was one of them as well. Can't quite remember who else it was who went out, but
it was Bumpy the
AlphaTauri. Yeah, it was Bumpy. It's quite obvious, isn't it? Because Mr. BT Bumpy. Yeah, it is quite obvious who went out.
Yeah, a little bit obvious if you take the minute to look at it. But we'll let you away with it, Jamie. Hey, it's a Thursday night.
I'll take you away with the start then.
Absolutely, mate. The cars line up the grid. You can do the 5 red lights and it's out and take us through the opening phases of this Grand Prix. 19 cars, 26 laps, and everything to play for.
We go then. All the drivers line up on the grid. We're just waiting for Joy at the back of the field there on the medium compound tyres. Luckily for him, he'll have the warmest tyres on the grid from the last driver coming in. All the drivers just waiting for him now as he slowly approaches the line. But let's see then. So he makes his way towards the line. Very slowly indeed. Here we go then as he slots into his grid box. Joshua's there as well, the left-hand side of the soft compound tyres. To Griff might be struggling because he's surrounded by soft runners, so is both McLarens. Only 4 drivers on the medium, surprisingly, outside the top 10. But here we go then. On lights 2, 3, 4, 5, and we are underway here in Baku, and I think, let's have a look. Walter's got a better start than Cameron Downs as we make our way down into turn number 1. Walter has the inside line. Liam Karag has just hit the back of Cameron Downs. Rudy's got himself past Liam Karag. He goes side by side now as we make our way into turn 2. Look at Giroud Visser going down the inside. There's 3 wide. It's not going to end well. And I thought it wasn't going to end well. Giroud Visser decided to go down the inside 3-1, and that corner does not end well. As Fernando Alonso back in 2018 but Giroud then sent it from a long way back, and he moves himself up into P3. Taze Nero's fighting with Mark as Taze goes down the inside. Mark's still there. Look at Rudy there going around the outside. They're going 3 wide yet again in a corner you don't really want to be, and looks like they make contact there with Rudy and Taze Nero's rear tyres. Bit dirty going on down there. Oh, Mark spun. He's been tied by Rudy. Rudy outbroke himself and sadly has spun Mark, and Mark has dropped all the way down to P18. You put the commentator's curse on Mark coming into this race car, but look at Leo Karak going down the inside of Rudy then. But look at that. Taze Leroy, 2.9 seconds already away from the top 4. It's a normal top 4, but Liam's hit the castle section. He got tagged from Robbie, and sadly, Liam's race has always lost all of his front wing now from Robbie. So a bit untidy first lap, very messy indeed, as all the drivers squabble for position. A virtual safety car has came out to neutralise the race and calm it down a little bit, because there was a lot of chaos going on there in the midfield. People jostling for position and desperately trying to get past each other. But all kicked off now at turn number 2.
Very, very scrappy start indeed. I believe Nathan JB gets spun around at turn number 2 as well. So a little bit completely opposite of what we've seen in the sprint race. All drivers very reserved, very patient on that sprint race this time around. Going well and truly right out for it. Of course, the VSC is out at the moment. I suspect Cameron making a little gap at the moment. It was 1.7 seconds cutting that down, so I expect he's just respecting the delta and going to try and get a good run on this restart. Taze Leroy, he was on for a brilliant start there, up to P5 I believe on the medium. So look at how many cars we have pitting. I wonder how many of these are strategy, how many of these are because they have wing damage. The VSC in though, so the strategy call of it being a shorter and less damaging pit stop time has now been neutralised. We've got only 11 cars on track, 8 of them in the pits. Seem going for hards, and rest of them, I'm assuming, going for a set of mediums. We're on board with Rudy though. He is pretty much the closest car to the car in front, chasing down T-Griff, and this has really separated out the pack into 2 distinct grids at this early stage, Jamie. Safety car, I doubt we won't see a race go full distance without a safety car. That might be needed just to bunch the pack back up, but Jeroen right on the tail and gearbox of Cameron Downs. Cameron struggling at the start of this race here, not having the same pace as he did in the initial sprint race, and T-Griff looks to have had a spin or some kind of collision through the castle section.
He was on the medium compound tyres. He made good ground off the start, and sadly he's dropped down. But look at Troye, look at Robbie. Troye, P9 from P19. Look at Robbie. The man in started P15 is up into P5. That was just avoiding all the chaos and picking his right moments. And yeah, P5 for him. He's done a fantastic job so far. So look at both Aston Martins in P5 and P10 then. So they'll be happy with that one so far. And there's still a long way to go. The safety car might bunch him up. But Pyro has retired, and that could cause a potential safety car. And it is a virtual safety car. And as we go on board with Josh, he's just plain crashed in the castle section then. So no safety car, which will bunch up the whole field then. But Jeroen was rather back as Derude has pitted then. That's very interesting from P8 there. Has he picked up any damage? Let's see that as he makes his way towards the his pit crew. And there is, I can't see from this camera angle, I don't know if he has damage or not.
No damage, no, just straight onto the medium. So a strategy call there, opting himself into the 2-stop, going for the fresh, clean and quick stop onto the medium. So expect him to stop again, maybe for another set of mediums. Of course, the advantage of there being no qualifying for this race, every car has fresh sets of tyres, plenty of them in fact. That garage chock full of mediums and softs, ready to go racing. So DeRoy going for an early pit stop call. We're back under green flag racing. P's right on the gearbox of Jeroen as they approach through the castle section. Jeroen closing in on Cameron Downs as well. Jeroen, of course, almost getting the move on Cameron before into turn 1 before the VSC comes out, just cutting that option off for him. So he's got to settle back in and try and reload and reprime that attack. ERS management looking a little bit better than maybe it was at this stage in the first sprint Grand Prix, but plenty of action and plenty of excitement still to come around the streets of Baku. We're on board with Jeroen Visser in P3.
Big boys first, second, third and fourth. P's, Jeroen, Cameron and Walter, both of course the 2 teammates. And Jeroen Visser a bit weaving on the straight there, but to try and break the DRS, a bit of cheekiness going on there with Jeroen Visser breaking the toe. But both teammates then, look at that, he's still breaking the toe. You can see him weaving on the straight. But yeah, Cameron Downs and Total P is there, the P2 and P4, the same team, so one of them have to stay out longer than the other to try and make the pit stop. Pep Bompia has overtaken Mr. BT. Mr. BT is in the pit lane then on lap 4. Very early pit stop, so not quite sure if this is another scheduled pit stop or a change of front wing. Yeah, it's a change of front wing for Mr. BT, so he's broken his front wing somewhere at the course of the virtual safety car, so unfortunately will drop a lot of positions and a lot of time as well. But Robbie down in P5 then, he's quite lonely because there's a 3.1 second gap ahead of him. It's only lap 4, and there's a 4.1 second gap behind him. And it's going to be very hard to close into the top 4 because they all have DRS on the back of each other, and Robbie doesn't. Robbie will have to try and push as hard as he can to get that DRS. That means use a lot of ERS as well. If he does get there, he'll have to try and save up the ERS he lost by pushing as hard as he can to try and get himself in that DRS train. And once he does get there, he has to regenerate that lost battery. So let's see then if he's got the outright pace to try and close the top 4. The gap is fluctuating between 2.8 to 2.8 to 3 seconds. I wonder, can he catch in? He's got a lovely clear there, has Robbie. 4.5 seconds. He's dropped Head Bumpy behind. But yeah, quite a few big gaps opening in this Azerbaijan, proving to be one of the chaotic races yet again, as it always has been in the recent histories. But right on board, Robbie, he's definitely pushing as hard as he can to try and reduce that gap between himself and Pease. Try and get himself in that 1 second range, to try and get involved in this fight for first place between Wouter, Cameron, Jeroen and Pease. Looks like Pease is closer now towards Jeroen than he was previously. Let's see that if you make a move on the Williams man for P3, as we ride on board with Total Pease, then they both have, all three of them have DRS the back of Wouter. They're all closing on Cameron and Wouter. Let's see if there's any moves as Pease goes towards the inside line, sets the fastest lap of the race. He goes down the inside but can't brake as late as he wanted because Cameron Downs was right there. So Jeroen with the outsider was able to brake later, because if Pease brake later, he'll go back into Cameron Downs. But Jeroen then stays in front of Total Pease, and Cameron Downs then stays in P2 at the back of Wouter. Chase Leroy has got past Rouge for P10. Rudy's following very close to him behind, and Rouge might lose 2 places in one here, as Rudy will go around the outside into turn number 1 we go. And yeah, I think he's got the move done for P11. De Rouge will have DRS the back of him to try and get his way back past the Dutchman for P11.
Interesting that battles are going on all over the field despite the scrappy start. Shout out to Javi, the Spanish man in charge of the Relentless Boys here. 3 of his 4 drivers inside the top 4. We won't speak about who the one outside of that is because he already knows. Just a little shout out from him. Love to see that Tier 2 was a very fun race. Hoping for more of the same year. Well, Jav, you missed an incredibly competitive and clean sprint race, and then a scrappy start to this feature race. Clouds looming over here in Baku. Already 1 retirement, so plenty more action to come and plenty of opportunity. We're right on board with Relentless Jeroen, your championship leader, hunting down the other hopefuls of Wouter and defending against the other hopeful of Pease. Cameron Downs mixing it up in there just to make things a little bit more interesting. Jeroen just under 2 attempts behind now, getting a nice run through turn 20. ERS enabled, DRS about to be enabled, and he's about to go side by side down the start finish straight, getting ahead even just before turn 1. And will he have a run? And Wouter into turn 1 has a half chance at it, thinks better of it, of course. Doing so will give him ERS, DRS down the second straight effectively in the run to turn 3. Yellow flags at the start and end of sector 2/3. ESWJR unfortunately having a poor race on his own down in P18. But here comes Jeroen around the outside of Wouter, having a chance at it. Not quite fully there. He's going to have the settle in behind. Of course, defending against Shazoo, Cameron Downs, and Relentless Pease. The battle for top 4. Well and truly on indeed. Mr. BT back into the pit, so another set of medium tyres potentially. Poor race for a few drivers and cars at the moment, but plenty of battles going on at the top of the field.
Robbie's did a good job though. He could sense an opportunity. If these guys continue to fight like this, Robbie has a chance of getting that DRS range and try to save the ERS that he lost to try and close this. So the gap is 1.4. He'll be absolutely pushing it while he has the chance in free air, because those guys ahead with each other's dirty air. So let's see that Robbie's used a lot of ERS to try and close. The gap is 1.4. Will it be under 1 second? He's managed to do a fantastic job because the gap was at 1 point about 3.2, and now it's 1.3. So he's gained a lot of time. He's about just outside the 1 second range of DRS, and he'll love to get in it. But a slight mistake coming out of turn number 15 there for him, so might have lost a little bit of time. Turn 16, sorry, but yeah, has got himself in the DRS range, sadly for him, so he'll lose about half a second down straight out low with the guys ahead having DRS. And let's see the total P's on the back of Cameron Downs. Jaruvis on the back of Walter. He'll take the lead of the race. And there he goes then. Up to P1 he goes, Cameron Downs, and P's having the overspeed. P's going down the inside of his teammate Cameron Downs. And he's got himself up into P3 there. So Cameron Downs has just lost the lead. And he's down into P5. De Rouge then overtaking Rudy for P11. Looks like to Griffin Taze Leroy managed to get away from those two because they were right there with him. But let's see on this on second straight. Walter's not close enough to make a move back. But he can stay that DRS range and try and regenerate some ERS. But look at Robbie. He's lost a lot of time due to those two DRS zones alone. The gap is 2.1 seconds now. He's lost about 7 or 8 tenths on that straight alone with the guys having DRS. So he'll have to make up all that time back in his middle sector. But his pace is proving to be good, is Robbie, because he's not too far away from Cameron Downs.
Yeah, it's
he almost made a mistake. Well, that was so close. He scraped the wall. Apologies to put in there.
No, you're quite alright, mate. It's kind of ebb and flow with Robbie. Of course, he's getting the clean air through Sector 2, that more tight technical sectors. These corners, like here, what Cameron, Pease, Valter and Urine are all going through as it stands. The tight, technical castle section, that clean air, no dirty air, no car in front of you to worry about where your braking point is. Letting him make up time through the middle sectors. But like you say, the run down to turn 1, the run down to turn 3, he's losing so much time under that DRS. Crucially, though, he is not far off it as we have a double retirement in the castle section, I believe it is, and it's a full course safety car. Rudy and DeRoy coming together into the castle section, and this will completely neutralise the race indeed. I expect a flurry of pit stops here, Jamie, including the top 5. Robbie now doesn't need to push hard or go for the undercut. I was just about to say, he's in prime undercut range to try and make a move on the top 4. He doesn't need to worry about it though, because here they come all into the pits, and it's disaster for Cameron Downs. He's likely to lose out to Robbie here, just because he's going to have the double stack with Pease. Pease onto the mediums. Who else is onto the mediums? Robbie is. So is Cameron Downs, so is Valter, and so is Jeroen. This is potential range as well, given the safety car, for these medium tyres to go right to the end. So expect, there we go, Troye, Boompier, Nathan, Taze Leroy, T-Griff. Troye, interestingly, going onto the hards. Taze Leroy onto a set of softs. So maybe not the strategy call I was thinking. I was thinking everybody in, fresh set of mediums and try and go to the end. Or if another safety car comes out, change your strategy there and then. So very, very interesting to see here. A nice little mix.
Yep, nice little mix indeed. Robbie, like you said, benefiting from the safety car because he doesn't have to worry about closing in anymore, losing that ERS. He can save the ERS now behind the safety car. And like you said, that double stack from total P's and Cameron Downs, it cost him a lot down to P5, losing the position to Robbie. So the double stack there, benefiting P's and Cameron Downs. But it's his pace car. It looks like he's losing a bit of pace because he was quick in the sprint quality with dominating that race. But in the actual race, it looks like he's dropping further back. So I wonder if he's got any, if these guys ahead managed to find something in their setups and try and get ahead of Cameron Downs. But Troye then up into P7 on a brand new set of hard compound tyres. Those tyres could definitely go towards the end of this race. And Nathan then on the medium. Both Aston Martins looking really good here. One's in P4 and the other's in P8. And Taze Neo on a brand new set of soft compound tyres, and he'll be rapid towards the end when the safety car comes in. But obviously, he's got to make another pit stop because those softs can't go towards the end of that race. So it's a definite 2-stop for sure for him. Or 3-stop because he did pit in the first lap.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to have to stop again. There's no way he's going to do 18 laps in a set of softs. Maybe around some circuits, never around Baku. Why we've got this little safety car, I think this could be a very good chance, Jamie. Speaking there about the Aston Martin's strong position in P4 and P8. Constructors standings then, of course. All the points from Tier 1 get collated with all the points from Tier 2, Tier 3 and Tier 4 to come together for this overarching Constructors Championship. And Aston Martin are leading the way. They've had a big showing in Tier 2, particularly 522 points off their 1,303 points coming from Tier 2. I believe that is Nelu Safu, and I apologise to whoever his teammate is. I know Nelu is up there in the title charge for Aston Martin. Ferrari, only 16 points adrift though, of course. I believe this is before the results of Tier 3 and Tier 4 on Monday night, and I know for a fact Aston Martin picked up 0 points from Tier 4, so this could be all chopping and changing. Williams, though, 1140, followed shortly by Haas and 1114. So all the ones and all the fours there for those two. Slightly adrift, 189 points separating P1 from P4, but that's nothing when you consider it over 4 tiers. Red Bull 1073, shortly more adrift of the Haas's, and then the Alpine AlphaTauri, the two A's, battling out for P6. 2 points separating 12 rounds and 8 drivers per round. That is incredible how close those two teams have been. Mercedes, they've made the jump from P10 to P8 over recent weeks, and I can't help but say that might have been down to Cameron Downs. He's had a tremendous showing coming into that Mercedes team and boosting them with a little bit of a points advantage. Alfa Romeo and McLaren coming up at the rear. McLaren, you look at the lineup here in this tier 1, and you think they should have loads of points, but the guy's just not able to get a points position together. They're tier 2 really struggling, and thank you for Quick Killer. There we go, Jav and Quick Killer reserve for tier 2 tonight. But Nelu in the Aston Martin as well, retiring from the race. So this title battle for the constructors about to get a little bit more tasty, and even more so from tonight. You've got the Mercedes boys up there at the top, the Williams and the Haas of Jeroen and Wouter. They're battling out for third as it stands effectively in the constructors. The Red Bulls, we've already had one retire. Liam Carrick's had some good showing so far. It's really all over the joint, and not just as this Drivers' Championship up for grabs, the constructor as well. But I've learnt that. Safety car in this map. Sorry, Jamie, I was just about to say, I learnt that from the head admin, Nathan. He's told me, try and fill some dead air when you can with some more information. So hopefully that's got me in the good books of the admins. But safety car in this lap, Jamie. I'll let you take us through this restart here.
It's a long straight then. And I remember early, I think it was like 2017 or 18, he almost caught up to the safety car when the safety car went in for the restart. But yeah, you got to let the safety car then come in, and Jeroen can decide when to go or not. It's a long straight, so you got to judge this perfectly. You got to catch Wouter napping at the safety car restart, then get the extra heat in the tyres, and let's see that the safety car is in the pit lane, and Jeroen can go whenever he wants to. And let's see that he will minimise the distance as much as he can, so he doesn't give Wouter as much of a big toe. And there he goes, then gets a good restart, and gives good distance between himself and Wouter, and Robbie's right behind Pease as Cameron Downs further back, so he didn't get the best of restarts he would have wanted. But any moves into turn number 1, I think someone's gone wide. That was an Alfa Romeo. Mark's gone wide, and Taze Leroy has got past Mr. BT for P13. Taze Leroy went back on the medium compound tyre, so he was emulating that rule of doing more than one tyre compound. Troye is right at the back of head bump here. Troye is on the hard compound tyres, but he can't get past him, and he stays behind him for the time being. And be careful as well not to hit the back of him with less grip on those hards. But yeah, Taze Leroy went on the soft compound tyres, so he can go back on the mediums as it counts as doing more than one tyre compound. But Seeb and Taze are fighting for P12. Both McLaren boys fighting as they were back in the sprint race and doing it yet again. And Leroy's just got past his teammate for P12. C4 Gamers, unfortunately for him, dropping back. He was a race winner, of course, here in CRL at Baku, but sadly for him, he's gone. Ever since the sprint race happened, it's just gone downhill for him, but he's in P13 fighting with Griff, Mr. BT, and Joshua as they're all make their way through the castle section. And this is going to be a phenomenal fight between the likes of Jeroen. Jeroen is absolutely pushing to get himself outside the 1 second range of DRS, because the rule is the 2 laps after safety car, the DRS comes into play. And while Jeroen hasn't got DRS, or while those guys haven't got DRS, Jeroen's pushed as much as he can to get himself outside that 1 second range, which he has done so far. So Wouter has to really push now to get back in that 1 second range of DRS to try and protect himself from the guys behind and essentially stay in contention for the win. But you can see them using a lot of ERS on this lap to try and pull away. And Wouter there just hovering around the 1 second gap. You can see reduced it now as they both use the one lap allowance you get each lap. And he's got himself back in the DRS. So one more lap then until DRS is activated. And Robbie is outside the 1 second range of Pease, as he's not used much ERS in comparison to the likes of Pease, Wouter and Jeroen. So he needs to start using some in order to stay in this DRS fight, like he was trying to catch up in the first stint. And Cameron Downs then will also be following through. But Troye's done a good job on the hard compound tyre so far. He's got Liam all over the back of him now. Let's see if Liam will make a move down into turn number 3. Will he outbrake him into turn 3? No, he doesn't, and lets Troye go. And he stays in P8 for the time being, does the Swedish driver make his return into Tier 1. He was a reserve driver, but nice to see him back. He hasn't been here for a few races. But crucially, the top 2, Wouter and Jeroen, the gap is 1.2. So when DRS comes next lap, Jeroen will Visa will be definitely safe.
Yeah, that can be crucial. Making that 1 second gap reduces, of course, the detection zones. You can see the green circles on your map on the right side, the right side hand of your screen. I am really over the shop my words tonight, folks. I will apologise. But on the entrance, sorry, to turn number 2, and just before turn number 28 on the final straight, if you're within 1 second of the car in front, when you cross those markers, you get the DRS option open. That rear wing of your car is available to be opened, and it gains you roughly, I believe it's 15 kilometers per hour in speed down the streets. Doesn't sound like a lot, but in this sort of instance, it can make a huge difference. Another thing, Jamie, I'm going to be bold with this. We're going to get rain this race. Now, the only reason I'm saying this, I've noticed a few times in the camera angles, the sun is sort of flaring and poking holes through the clouds. I think rain is on the way. Liam Carrick making the move on Troy. Further up though, P's getting ahead of Wouter for P2. So Jeroen now got a 1.9 second lead over P2, and he's got a defence of P's against his main championship rival of Wouter. 18 points Jeroen needs to outscore Wouter by in this race tonight. Currently, as it stands, 40 points for Jeroen, and I believe 28 for Wouter would leave Wouter only being allowed to drop 6 points, and that would include if Jeroen does DNF. So as it stands, Jeroen making a big move for the Championship League. Troye losing out to Liam Carrag, Snail and Mark all in that lap. The Hards really struggling, and in fact he's got Taze Leroy not even a tenth behind, almost pushing him around this little chicane in the second sector. Taze going to have a nice little look down into the right hander before the castle, getting the move done, and Troy's just going to have to tuck in. There's no way you can go 2x2 through the castle section. Those Hards, like we've said before earlier on in this Grand Prix, Jamie, they are really tricky, not just to get up the temperature, but to manage in the temperature and try and find the grip. Yes, towards later stages of this race they might come to fruition, but it could be too little too late by the time that does happen.
Yeah, a durable tyre, but just not grippy, and it's not helping Troy whatsoever. He's getting swamped left, right, and centre. But Taze Leroy was hit the wall coming into turn 6 while he was fighting Troy. Hopefully he hasn't sustained any bumper damage. If it is, got away with it, or just very light indeed. As Cameron Dowston has got past Robbie, and up into P4 he goes. Total P is 1.2 seconds behind Jeroen, and then hoping to get back in the DRS range in order to boost his chances of winning this race then. So let's see if Pease has the outright pace to try and get himself below that 1 second gap and try and see if he can try and take the lead away, because I know Pease has been unlucky this season quite a lot in a few races, but let's see that if he can make amends, as Taze Leroy then right at the back of Mark. And like you said, Mark was one of the favourites coming into this race, but unfortunately it's not proven to be, as he's struggled so far in this race. Currently under pressure from Taze Leroy right behind. Looks like Taze Leroy did get away with that front wing damage, and looks like he's pursuing Mark then for P10, battle top 10 pay positions. And C4 Gamer is currently under pressure from Griff from behind, and Troy under pressure from Joshua and Mr. BT. But Cameron Downs has dropped quite a lot. Wonder where his race pace has gone from the sprint quali, because he was flying in the sprint quali, but all of a sudden he's dropped down his P4. Wonder if he if the other guys ahead have managed to, maybe it's the setup change as well in between the one-shot quali, because it was raining, maybe the setup made a difference for these guys ahead, managed to get the dry setup or find a perfect balance for the cars, or Cameron Downs just not finding the outright pace. But it seems like Robbie as well, down to P5, he was catching those guys ahead on the soft compound tyres in the first stint. He's under pressure from Head Bompier. Head Bompier's all over the back of him, so I wonder if Robbie's made a mistake. Looks like he is, because he's going slowly through the corners. I wonder if he sustained any front wing damage, because he's 2.6 seconds behind Cameron Downs. So it could, I think he made a mistake somewhere on the course of that lap, and Head Bompier then will take him. So will Nathan right behind him, and Nathan will pass his teammate yet again, standing for him. Both Aston Martins there, but look at Walter then. He's managed to overtake P's for P2, and Head Bompier and Nathan have got past Robbie. Robbie is not in the pit lane, so damage is not enough for him to come in the pit lane. Liam Carrag goes down the inside as Robbie then goes wide into turn 1, and sadly, if he doesn't pit, Robbie will just drop down further down the order.
I wonder if it is damage for Cameron Downs and Robbie, or if it is just a case we've seen them up there battling on the mediums. Maybe the damage has come, they're not quite getting to grips with the mediums, or maybe it's just a pure pace, not quite finding the right balance of the mediums, not able to exploit the maximum pace at this time under the mediums versus what they had with the softs. So a big gap forming from Cameron Downs to the top 3. And Robbie just dropping like a stone there from P5 to P8. He's now got Snail right on the tail of him. And in fact, not
Big
just
crash.
on the tail of them, he was across him like the front wing. Not quite sure what led up to that there, but I suspect that'll be damage for the Haas. It looks as if he's got a missing front left end plate, and this is going to be horrible for him going through the castle section, and indeed everybody behind him.
He's just lost his wing going up the castle section. He has to get out of the way. There's no point just being a roadblock for everybody who cause more disaster. He just has to back out because he's lost all of his wing. He has no downforce and no turning. And Griff got to be careful there. Yeah. Oh, Griff made contact and almost lost the car. And there's more chaos going on there. Choi has just got past. And Mr. BT's just got past Choi. And now they're standing for him, loses all of his full wing. And we've joined down in last place. So chaos going on down there. Robbie, not quite sure what happened to those two guys from there. But it's a massive shame because Robbie had a chance of scoring a good podium. But P's there right behind Walter. And P's is on 0% EOS. He's got 0% to his name whatsoever. He would love a safety car to try and close in back on Giroud Vizza, but it looks like it's a battle for second place now as Liam Karag has overtaken Head Bompier for P6 as Taze Leroy is in the pit lane yet again. So, he's retired in the pit lane. So that's a shame to see for him. Must have got caught up in that damage there when they were all bunched up behind together behind Snell. But Walter, the right at the back of Total P's. Looks like it's going to be a battle for P2 now between P's and Walter. They just can't seem to get that gap between himself and Giroud. It's just very difficult, especially when you're fighting the guys and you have no clear air. It's just so difficult to try and close it because the guy in front just has all the clear air in the world and not under pressure from the guys behind, which kind of have a leading effect as well to your race. But Giroud Vizza, the favor swings towards him for the time being.
Yeah, this battle for P2 really creeping on. Like you're saying, maybe a little bit of a hope and a pray for a safety car to close that gap down and let them go at it again. 1.4 seconds. P's of course expending the ERS, battling with each other. Jeroen expending it to try and pull out the gap, so they're all pretty even on it. Whether maybe Valter and P's can almost work together to use sort of a DRS pull along. Rudy has left the game DNFing before Taze Leroy. I never even caught on Rudy DNFing. Was that the
Castle session?
That was the double castle, wasn't it? Yeah, of course I was thinking that was Rudy, Deroy and Pyro. Sorry, so they will of course not get any points finishing. Everybody that does finish this race now guaranteed at least 1.15 runners. And of course here at CRL, very, very kind and friendly, giving out 15 points paying positions as Walter has a run down on P's into turn 1, getting the move done before the entrance of the corner, now regaining P number 2. Of course, like we're saying, the DRS worth about half a second a lap when we were watching Robbie try and pull in towards the front runners earlier on. If they can use that to their advantage, of course, they're going to be swapping and switching, but they could use that to almost drag themselves up to Jeroen and maybe make it a freeway battle for the lead of this Grand Prix. Valter will be desperate for that. He needs to outscore Jeroen by as many points as he possibly can today to keep the championship battle, alive. As does Pease. He is still a rank outsider, but still in with a shot here. So expect this not to be the last twist and tail in this Grand Prix. Those two will keep battling for that P2, but maybe with long-term goals in their mind.
I think Pease is in this Pease's position. I don't think he really cares about the championship anymore. He just wants to properly go for it. Robbie has retired. Is that on the track? I think it's in the pit lane. The car's gone very quickly, so I think it was in the pit lane. But I don't think Pease will be caring about the championship. He cared about the race wins more than that. So championship is not in his mind. I think Walter as well focus more on the championship more than Total Pease. So just Total Pease just absolutely go for it. But like you said, I've done this tactic before where I used somebody we used each other for the DRS to try and close that 1 second gap. It's so hard. You gotta use each other for DRS. You can't fight. You just gotta let each other go lap after lap until you finally get onto the 1 second range of DRS and can start pulling your way towards the leader. But yeah, there goes Pease again on Walter. But this just got absolutely no ERS in the tag whatsoever. They're both literally on 0%, where Giroud can spare a little bit more ERS in comparison to these two. So it's just really hard to try and drag each other along, especially when you've got no ERS and not saving any either, as you keep constantly going past each other. So yeah, that's another difficult one to think about, as well as Mark re-overtakes his teammate for P9. Both Alphas fighting for 9th and 10th as Mark re-overtakes him to P1, where Joshua got him before the previous lap time, but we're seeing Liam Karag fighting with Nathan. Good drive from Nathan so far in P5. But very quiet in this race, and finds himself fighting with Liam Karag in P6 while he started in P3 there. So see a good fight between those two happening, but Giroud continues to extend that gap between himself and P's. The gap is 1.6 as Joshua goes back down the inside of the mark for P9.
Yeah, nice little battle for P9 between the two Alfa Romeos. Nathan, like you're saying, have a very quiet race. I believe having a poor one-shot qualifying and then an even poorer picking up that 5-second penalty for speeding into pits in the sprint race, obviously not starting too high up the grid. Back on what you're saying as well about, trying to slingshot your way up, would it not be worth for one of these drivers to take the hit, not to overtake, just to maybe cool down with the DRS? You should sit behind the other driver, save the ERS, and then when it's time, use that fuller battery, maybe 40, 50, 60% worth of battery, and really go for a couple of push laps. Maybe they're not thinking about this. Maybe they're just thinking, let's just race, and whatever happens, happens. Not think about the long strategy. I don't know. I'm only a tier 4 driver, Jamie, here to ask the questions and to talk the nonsense over this race. Speaking of this race, 17 laps of the 26 underway here. Roughly about of the 3/4 of the way mark, I would roughly say. Plenty of action going on still to come. Bowter not able to close down the gap on Urine, but he is able to close down the gap on Pease as he makes his move for P2 in this race. Once again, Cameron Dowds keeping the 2.8 to 3 second gap to the front three. He's had a little fall off of pace at the start of this stint, and it's really sort of hampered him in the battle for the top 3 podium positions. Nathan JB, another further 5 seconds back. He's battling with Liam Carrig for P5 as it stands. And then the grid, gets a little bit more spaced out here. Bumpier, Sieb, all in their battles of their own. ASW Josh, or Joshua, as we better know him, fighting it out with Mr. BT and Mark for P9. Troy on the hards and a little battle of its own. And then Tigriff and Snell not having the best races, making another pit stop there. They find themselves at 13 and 14, the last of our runners. Clouds, though, starting to get a little bit thicker. The tarmac, a little bit darker. And you must admit, the tyre temperature starting to fade. It might just be a matter of time of when the droplets are going to form.
Yeah, good race, spice things up as well in this race. Like, if it does, then we will benefit well. Walter, Pease, Giroud, Cameron. We'll see then if rain does impact the circuit, and it could change the whole phase of the race. But still quite a few laps to go. But anything to happen, Giroud and Visser has managed to extend the gap towards Walter by 2 seconds, as there goes Total Pease then back on Walter. It's just a play fight for second place now. I don't think they're both fighting for P1, as Giroud Visser has got it covered ahead of those two. And yeah, Giroud Visser was embroiled in the battle with C4 Gamer last season. They were both fighting for the race victory, Sieb and Giroud, and Sieb was managed to edge Giroud out with the extra ERS advantage. But yeah, Giroud Visser is well clear of any threat towards Total Pease and Walter, as they're just focused on their battle for P2. And Cameron Downs running his own race in P4, not really showing the pace he had in the sprint qualifying, whether it's due to setup, just to get 3 guys, just generally being faster than him. I don't know, but yeah, he's not managed to make an impact ever since he took that pole. He's dropped further down the field, and not quite sure if he has any damage if he has to deal with. But yeah, Cameron Downs there just sat there in P4, had a lowly race. Nathan's under massive pressure from Leo Karg behind. Those two had a good fight for P5. And interestingly, nobody in this race has penalties so far.
Yeah, of course, track limit penalties not a huge sort of worry, shall we say. Of course, you can get them on the entry into turn 1. That right-hander we just seen Nathan and Liam come through the castle section, and this left-hander here either cutting the entry or cutting the exit of the corner, potential to pick up penalties, but it's very, very rare for anyone to do so. But the big thing, no real pit stop penalties. It is a unique and tricky pit stop. It's actually quite high speed, but you've almost got like a little chicane on the entry to the pit stop. If you take it too harsh, you can end up in the wall, but if you take it too slow, you run the risk of somebody coming in a little bit too hot behind you, maybe making contact. So amazed that all drivers have been able to keep it under the speed limit penalty, sorry, for the pit lane entry. Back on board with Wouter, though. He's swapping back ahead, regaining that P2. Could be an interesting battle if it stays like this towards the end. Who's going to position themselves in the prime position between Pease and Wouter to take the P2 when they cross the line? It could be very similar to the Bottas and Stroll we've seen a few seasons back. Sieb making the move on his IRT teammate on to P7 into turn number 1. Liam's still behind Nathan in the run down to turn 3. So little battles going all over the place. A nice one I like. Look, Josh and Mark. Josh, a real improvement in his pace over recent weeks and months, I must say, and that's showing that he's keeping and battling with Mark here on equal tyres around a very, very tricky circuit. So good to see. And in fact, Josh, I would almost give the advantage to him. He's on the wheel, Mark, of course, on the pad. We all know the pad wheel debate, a huge one in the community. A little bit of wheel banging between them there, though, but for the most part, keeping it clean. Mark getting the pad traction, Josh getting the wheel lines through. So a nice little battle going on. BT and Troy hanging about in the background, but not able to make an advantage or a move on this yet. 7 laps to go, though, including this lap we're currently on. So realistically, 6 and a sector to go. You're in a 2-second lead at the front. P's and Vout are battling out for P2, and Cameron Downs 2 seconds further back. The top 4 sort of cemented in. Except which relentless driver will it be in P2 and which one in P3?
Oh, Liam Clark has retired. Oh, is that a safety car? Could that wipe out? It's a safety car. Where is Giroud Bizarre? He is coming towards the pit lane, so he'll be happy that he hasn't gone further down the safety car being deployed. Otherwise, he'll catch up to the safety car, and the 2 guys are behind him could pit. But this changes the whole phase of the race yet again. 6 laps to go. Liam Clark calls the safety car, and everybody, I presume everybody, will be in the pit lane. And if anybody stays out there, they've got a mighty challenge defending from all the soft runners, the fresh soft runners, but everybody then in the pit lane to put on a brand new set of the soft compound tyres. It'll be a sprint race all the way to the checkered flag.
Absolutely. Lap 21 here, safety car out. So we're going to serve lap 21 and probably lap 22 under safety car, which means we'll have 23, 24, 25 and 26. A 4-lap sprint here. Everybody on fresh softs. This throws up some interesting debacles. Bouter, Pease, Cameron Downs and Jeroen having very similar pace on the softs the last time out. Of course, I think we'll get 4 laps of race and DRS will come into play then. And we know how vulnerable that can make the car in P1B. So this could be disaster for Jeroen's chances at the victory. It'll bring the likes of Snell back in with an opportunity here. He can pit, get fresh softs, and try and gain up something through the grid. And also the likes of Troy, P9, I don't see how. He somehow jumped both Mark and JR. So did BT, in fact. Not as if it was the double-stacked effect in the other one. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but they fell back to 10 and 11, the 2 Alfa Romeos. So a real sprint race indeed here to the checkered flag. It should be, if my estimation is right, 4 laps to go. Safety car coming in at the end of lap 22. Next full lap here. Get back under green flag racing. But Jamie, I suppose it's decision time. Who is your money on for the win here? Predicting it now, before we've seen the restart, before we've seen any green flag race in this final sprint. If you were to pick a winner from here, who would it be?
I'll say a driver, it won't happen, so...
you don't want to then?
Alright, let's do it. I think... I'll go for Chivuviza. He had the outright pace, managed to stay ahead of Walter, the last previous safety car. So, I think Chivuviza, I think he's got this.
Going for the Williams of Jeroen, led the race the majority way. I'm going to go for a slightly different pick. I'm going to go for the man on your screen at the moment, Relentless P. He's currently in P3. He's currently in 3rd gear, full throttle, half brake. So for those that don't know, you might see the drivers doing this under safety cars at some point. Full throttle with a bit of brake, revving out the engine. That is to burn fuel, just in case there's maybe any lower tier drivers or people unfamiliar with the F1 community end game. That is exactly what Pease has been doing there, revving out the engine into 6th gear, burning off, because every ounce of fuel makes the car a little bit slower. But I'm predicting him for the win, and I'm going to go for a really brave choice, and I hope I don't commentators cuss him. The man in P5 in the Aston Martin, Nathan JB. I think he might sneak his way onto a podium.
Oh, Steve. Yeah, Steve's up there as well, so he could find himself
and
on a podium.
Can we ever rule out Bumpier? Let's be honest, we cannot.
Bumpier's got about 2 or 3 podiums in his CRL race history, so yeah, he's a good one for picking up podiums as well. Mr. BT and P8 could be a good contention, anybody of these, if there's drama towards the last few laps of this race. But yeah, like you said with the revving out thing, I broke my gearbox in a league race doing that before. Yeah, it wasn't. I think some people know about this. I think some people know what I'm talking about in the chat. But I actually broke my gearbox before revving it out under the safety car, and I broke it on the penultimate or last lap. and it spun me out. And many people question why I was out of the race without even losing my wheel.
I think I can do you one better here, Jamie. I've done this before, trying to do this before. Of course, went to the wheel this season in Tier 4. Typically, Tier 4, there is a little bit more safety cars, I will admit, and you underfuel, but sometimes you don't underfuel by enough and you have to burn a little bit of fuel. I can't remember what track it was I was doing it at, but let's just say I had, you know, half brake, full throttle, and instead of taking my foot off the throttle and then lowering the throttle down a little bit and, you know, getting the traction back, I decided to take my foot off the brake, full throttle in second gear. You can imagine what happened to the car. Well, I went from about P5 to about P17 and I had to make another little pit stop. So it really is, it's a smart thing to do, but it's only smart if you can do it right.
Yeah, I've also done the exact same thing as you before Scott losing my front wing because I forgot to let the, forgot to do the same thing as you, just let full throttle hit the wall. I was such an idiot for doing that. But safety car then is going at the end of this lap, and let's see then how Giroud will judge this if he does the same thing as last time. Will Walter be all over the back of him at the safety car restart? We'll see. But Giroud had a fantastic safety car restart, but he's going to let the safety car go in now, and Walter will be keeping an eye on Giroud to see whether he'll go. Got to pay attention. Focus, Walter. Let's see if he can get a good restart at the exit of this one. You can see there back in the punch up. Off he goes then, halfway down the straight. It was further down than last time to try and reduce that distance, and looks like he's got a good restart there. He stays in P1 for the time being. DRS will be enabled in a few laps time because it's not lap 24, but C4 Game looks like he had a go at Nathan, but couldn't quite make it. Mark's got past Troye for P10, and looks like Joshua going down the inside of to Griff. And further down, Snell is not caught up because he is out of the race because he's left the session. But you know, there was a safety car, he would have stayed in the session and raced on for the few laps of this race. But at the moment, Giroud is still the race leader. Mr. BT is having a fight with Mark. Around the outside he goes with Mark, but Mr. BT down the inside gets ahead. Daniel Collier, we've had two safety cars. And Troye going around the outside. In fact, Mark has the inside line and stays ahead for the time being. Outbreaks him into the corner, and Mark was able to stay ahead of. Looks like he got a good exit as well, squeezes him towards the wall. But fair enough, I must say, because Mr. BT did clearly cut him off there to make sure he didn't get past. Yeah, Daniel, we've had two safety cars so far. One virtual safety car, I believe, in this race. Yeah.
I like that as well. I think that's got to be the boldest prediction from Jav there. Me to jump in the safety car and win the race. That would be that's up there with the boldest of the bold. First of all, to me, to ever make it to this grid, and second of all, to be in it and a chance to win at this race, despite even if it is the safety car, you are, put it this way, I'll have what you're having. It sounds like some good entertaining stuff. The battle though, raging on. Cameron Downs, right back in the mix here, Jamie. Only 3/10 off P's. We should see DRS, I believe, will it be enabled this lap or the next lap? This could really shape up some battles. Seeb getting a run past Nathan JB for P number 5. And BT losing out to Mark. T-Griff losing out to Joshua. On the run down that straight. Just a such powerful straight. I don't think DRS has been enabled this lap yet. We'll see just here. No, it has not. So it will be the end of this lap. 2-lap sprint with the DRS enabled. Of course, that safety car not just bunching up the pack. It's also regained the full battery. Most of the drivers here will have started off, well, all of them, sorry, started off with 100%, and most of them sitting with a good healthy battery percentage, unless they've been abusing it here. We're on board with Cameron Downs. You can see 64% for him, and he's only got 2 and a bit laps left to bleed through that. You can't, of course, use as much as you want in one lap. You've got a set limit per lap, so there's no point in saving it all 80-90% for one lap because you'll never burn through it. It's going to be a very, very interesting finish to this race here tonight. Cameron Downs, though, on the back of his teammate Pease. Pease having a little bit of a bad start there. I don't know if you noticed, Jamie. Tenths we're talking about tenths here. 3-4 tenths a gap to the car in front versus everybody around him. The guys behind him all filing in one by one. Only a tenth behind, so Pease maybe caught slightly napping. But that can be the difference here. We know in this tier, in this league, fine margins make everything in everything. I don't know where I'm going with that, Jamie, but I'll hand it back over to you. We're into the penultimate lap here. Plenty of action still to go, everything still to be decided. I'm going to jump on board with ESWJR as he makes a run on Troye.
Lap 25 out of 26, and Nathan V overtakes C4 Gamer 4P5, and he stays ahead for the time being, but C4 Gamer will have the DRS on Nathan as they make their way onto the second straight. ESW Joshua has re-overtaken Troye as he's under pressure from Griff, but let's see then, all eyes at the front of the field then. Walter has the DRS for the first time on Giroud Vizza, as he didn't have it on the medium stint, but he'll have it this time out as Mr. C4 Gamer has been overtaken by Het Bompier. So C4 Gamer is dropping back. He's just lost 2 positions in the process, and Het Bompier then on the back of Nathan JB to score 5th place if he can do so. Nathan outside the 1 second DRS range, so he will not have the protection going down the straight, but C4 Gamer and Het Bompier are good friends. With P6 and P7 scored a good result despite what happened early on in the race. But Walter then will have the DRS then on the straight as he's kept in the 1 second gap this time, and Giroud Vizza will be vulnerable. He'll have to use that ERS all the way down the straight, and Giroud Vizza then, well, let's see how he tackles this. P's got out of shape coming out of the castle section. It's allowed Cameron Dowles to get even closer as he's dropped a bit from Walter ahead of us. But P's then regaining form and staying there in P3. Cameron Dowles couldn't overtake because he's too far back, but we're going on to lap turn 16 then, coming out of here. Walter needs a decent exit out of here to try and slipstream his way past Giroud Vizza, but you can see him already using the ERS out of turn 16 then, trying to get the best run on Giroud Vizza. Giroud Vizza is absolutely draining that ERS to make sure he stays ahead of Walter. Cameron Dowles is putting pressure on his Mercedes teammate. They both burn the ERS as Total P's and Cameron Dowles. We're headed on to lap 26 out of 26, the final lap. Both Mercedes are scrapping for P3. Cameron Dowles sets the fastest lap of the race as we make our way down into turn 1 there. Cameron Dowles has the inside line and they're still going side by side. Very clean, tiny racing there between the two of them. We're going down into turn 2 then. Cameron Dowles, Total P staying around the outside. They'll both have DRS yet again on the back of Walter. And let's see who gets ahead. Will it be Cameron Dowles or will it be Total P? It's a good fight for P3. And I think Total P's will have the advantage. Cameron's late on the brakes, which he is, down the inside. And you can see they get a contact made. And they're still going side by side coming out of turn number 3. Now going into turn number 4, Cameron has the outside line this time. If he gets better traction, we'll get ahead. But Total Peas is still there with him as we go into turn number 5. Now into turn 6, the inside line going towards Total Peas. Does Cameron get a good switch back on him? No, he doesn't. Total Peas stays ahead, but this has cost him because he's outside the 1 second range of DRS now on Walter. So this is all down to Walter to see if he can try and take the victory away from Giroud Vizza. But yeah, Total P's and Cameron Dowles are pretty much out of it. It'll be their own scrap for P3 as they outdrag themselves towards the line. But this is going to be interesting between Walter's. Mark is the first driver to pick up a penalty. Joshua has retired from the session, and sadly for him, he is left. But all eyes on Walter. Can he outdrag Giroud Vizza? He needs a really good run coming out of turn 16 here, which he has done now. Using that ERS, Giroud Vizza giving it absolutely everything in the tank. The gap is about 4 tenths. Is this going to be enough for Giroud Vizza to win? Is this going to be enough for Walter to close in and try to overtake him? Here we go then, on the straight for the final time in this race. Walter will have DRS. All Giroud can do is weave on the straight, but not too much. As we make our way towards the line. Has Walter done enough as we make our way? No, he hasn't, as Giroud Vizza wins the Grand Prix ahead of Walter. Cameron Dowles finishes in 3rd place, takes the podium away from Total P's, and Nathan comes home with P5. The gap between himself and Het Bompier separated by under a tenth. C4 Gamer in P7, but what a good race there from Giroud Vizza. Good exit throughout turn 16, and held made that gap of 5 tenths and stayed ahead. So fantastic for Giroud Vizza to win that race.
Absolutely, the finest of margins, 28,000 separating your P1 and your P2. Of course, Wouter outscoring Jeroen by 4 points in the sprint race, but Jeroen striking back and outscoring by 7 points in this feature race. As it stands, of course, provisionally before any stewards meeting or intervention, these results could change, but as it stands, Jeroen will take a 3-point advantage over the lead he had going into this Grand Prix to the final 2 rounds, but it was not the 14 he needed to sign up and seal the championship tonight. He does take P1 from starting 6th on the grid, 28,000 like we said ahead of Wouter, Cameron Downs and Peas. I've just got to congratulate the both of them. What a battle on the final few laps. As it's been said in the comments a number of times tonight, Cameron Downs, a bright young future, not just in the league racing community, potential future esports. I would love to see him make it that far, and I definitely think he's one of the radar. He picks up the fastest lap and gets 28 points for his P3 and a bonus point for his fastest lap. Peas beaten by less than a tenth to P3 by Cameron Downs. Nathan GB comes home in P5 from P10 in the Aston Martin. Boompier, the little tree, comes home in P6 ahead of his compatriot of Sieb in the McLaren in P7. Troy making his return 19th to 8th. A solid drive for the Williams reserve driver. T-Griff, Mark, BT and Snell, your finishers, although Snell, I suspect, under AI for the majority. ESWJR retiring on the final lap at turn number 2. Of course, completing 90% of the race distance. He will get points tonight. And your non-finishers are Liam Carragh, Robbie, Taze Leroy, Rudy, DeRoy and Pyro. 19 drivers, 26 laps, plus a 13-lap sprint race. That's 39 laps of Baku, 75%. An extreme feat for all of them. Some incredible racing, some incredible battling. And just exactly what we expect to see here in CRL Tier 1, Jamie. An absolute pleasure to commentate once again.
Yeah, you two as always, mate. Perfect relationship in this commentary box. And Liam Carragh then made it difficult for Jaruvasa because Jaruvasa really had to put up a fight. And he probably known that Walter was going to go for it on the last lap like all drivers do. And you've left the session, Scott, you? Yeah, you have. And yeah, Giroud then was able to say that ERS for the last lap and absolutely obliterated down the straight, which he did, and just managed to win the race. So good judgment there from Giroud to keep it nice and calm. And both Mercedes fighters as well, with Cameron down to total P. Good comeback drive from Cameron because he looks like he was out of contention for a podium before that second safety car. All of a sudden, he managed to find some pace. Maybe it was the mediums, you don't know. Maybe it was a little bit of damage. He was able to change in the pit lane when the safety car, the second one, came out. But yeah, what a race that was. A very happy to commentate here as always, and nice to see some good action between the field and good respect from all the drivers there that were fighting at the front and the back there. So yeah, what another fantastic race to tick off the books, and hopefully we can have another good one in the next race.
Absolutely, next race, of course, will see us go all the way to Belgium. Spa-Francorchamps, one of the longest, in fact, the longest circuit on the calendar. Only 22 laps. Just shows how long it will. Back to the normal format of a full qualifying session. 80 minutes Q1, 50 minutes Q2, and 12 minutes Q3 before the 22-lap race takes us around the legendary Belgium circuit. It's going to be an interesting one indeed. I'm just going to have a little look in, Jamie, about our interviews. Now, I know Jeroen is ill. I know he's not in the best of way for talking, so I doubt we will speak to him tonight. And I know Wouter isn't too keen on the commentary. His equipment maybe not the best, but I'll ask them as well. We'll hopefully see. But I think we'll definitely get our youngest podium sitter, probably in CRL history, in fact. Of course, Cameron Dowds. P3 tonight for the Mercedes, a strong showing from him. Strong showing from Mercedes overall, P3 and P4, nothing to be scoffed at. And this championship battle, not just in the drivers, also the constructors, it's well and truly not over as we go into the final few rounds.
That 1-2 at Austria really helped him and boosted him in the constructors as well between P's and Cameron Dowds. Sadly we didn't get to see a battle between the two Mercedes drivers in first and second, but they brought it home nonetheless, and it was a good race for Total P's because what he needed after a few horrible races previously. But when he returned to Austria, scored P2 and a quiet race for him, which he would have wanted as well. But Cameron Dowds, he had a fight with Giroud. You weren't here for Abu Dhabi. It was Cameron Dowds versus Giroud, and sadly Cameron crashed in the penultimate corner and caused a safety car. I think Robbie was able to claim his first legit podium of the season. I was able to talk to him, so it was nice to do so. But that's when I had Origin Gamma commentate with me, and it was nice to see Gamma returning to the comms box and for CRL.
Yeah, once again, thank you to Gamma for filling in that evening. It was an absolute a travesty, I must say, for myself to miss. It sounded like an absolute amazing race, and it looked like it watching it back. But thank you once again for jumping in and commentating on my behalf. We do have our first and maybe only of our podium chatters in here tonight. It's, of course, the man from the Highlands, the man in the Mercedes, his dad in the chat, supporting as ever. We love to see, and probably the youngest driver to ever and probably will ever race in Tier 1. It is, of course, Shazoo Cameron Downs. Cameron, congratulations on your P3 tonight. You had good pace the whole evening. Maybe excluding that second stint on the mediums, of course, in the feature race. But aside from that, tremendous pace over the course of the whole evening and race weekend, effectively. You must be pretty filled with that result.
Yeah, I'm happy with that result. Since it was a sprint weekend, it made it, in my opinion, quite a lot funner. There was more racing, which is always good. Yeah, my one shot was alright. I just had to get the lap in, which I managed to do. It was a bit of a scruffy lap, but lined up P3, so it was alright. And then I got a pretty good start. I think Lee must have bogged down. I think Lee bogged down or something, which just promoted me up to P2 at the start. And then Lee, I can't remember what even happened to Liam. He'd like got wing damage or something because he wasn't in the fight like after the pit stops in the sprint. Yeah, I'm not sure. He wasn't in the fight after the pit stop, so I forgot what happened to him. But yeah, then it was a good fight with Wouter. He didn't have the since he tried to undercut, he didn't really have the ERS, so I just used everything and I was able to get out of the DRS, and then it was pretty plain sail from there. And then in the race, it was quite fun. I was lacking some pace. Jerome was the quickest guy there today, and then Wouter was followed closely behind him. I'd say I was like maybe third, fourth quickest. But yeah, it was a really good battle with Peas at the end after that, with that safety car. It's quite intense here, side by side, like the first, like 2.5 sectors on the last lap, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We caught it all in stream, mate. Very, very good battling between the two Mercedes cars at the end of the Grand Prix. Really paled up with the finish. Of course, you narrowly beating out Peas. You were narrowly beating out Wouter for the win. It really was a climatic finish here tonight around Baku. Just jump back in with your race, your feature race. Of course, sprint number 2. You're on the medium tyres, and it looked as if you're struggling for a little bit of pace. Did you have a little bit of minor damage not worth pitting for? Or was it just a general not having the same pace in the mediums as the guy in front? We knew we were up there with the softs, but was the mediums just not quite getting into grip quite the way you'd like it?
No, it was just general pace, to be honest. I didn't have damage. I just lack of grip, to be honest. It was just the car was quite slidey in the second sector, and then yeah, I just wasn't able to really capitalise on the. Sorry, sorry, my mic fell out.
Yeah, you're quite alright. Yeah, quite alright.
I was just kind of lacking pace. The car was quite slidey in the middle sector, and I wasn't really able to. I thought the car was it felt quite good on the softs, but then as soon as I went onto the mediums, it was a bit dodgy to say the least. But luckily enough, things went all right in the end.
Absolutely. Congratulations once again, your P3. Last question from me before I hand you over to Jamie. He'll have a little bit more technical insight, I'm sure, than me. Belgium and Bahrain coming up the next 2 rounds. How are you feeling about them? What's your flavour of those 2 tracks?
So I don't like either of them. Belgium is all right. Well, if I get, I don't really have a good setup around Belgium at the moment, so it's a bit. I don't like the track that much, but no, sorry, it's not that fun of a track to drive at the moment because I have a really dodgy setup. But when I get a good setup, I reckon it'll be a fun track to drive and it'll be quite flowing. Bahrain, I reckon Pyro and Liam are going to be the masters of that track because Pyro, they're both on pads, so I reckon you won't see the same people at the top in Bahrain. I reckon it could be a bigger fight. But Belgium good, Bahrain no.
Fair enough. We've heard it here first. You're not too confident of either, so I fully expect to see you back in the podium for both of them because that tends to be how racing works. Jamie, I'll hand it over to you. Have you got any questions for our P3 tonight, Cameron Dowds in the Mercedes?
Hello, Cameron. Nice to speak to you for the first time. How you doing, mate? Yeah, in the when the safety car came out in the second stint, did you think there was a chance of victory going on?
I didn't think there was a chance of victory. I think I thought a P2 might have been on the board, but Jerome was mighty fast today. I didn't think anyone was going to challenge him, which Wouter did at the end. I think he only missed it on the limb by like 200s or something. But I thought third or second would be the best I could get. Jerome was untouchable today with his pace.
you hear there's a one-shot qualifier for a sprint race. What's your mind going into a sprint quali? Because it was Azerbaijan, it's a difficult circuit to do a one-shot quali. You don't know what how the track's going to feel like. But when it was raining as well, how treacherous was the condition? Were you struggling out there in the one-shot qualifying, or did you manage to get to grips as quickly as you can?
No, I was struggling. I got to grips with the car for like halfway through sector 2, but at the start of sector 2. But the first sector was horrible. I like missed my braking zone completely at turn 1, and then it was just like trying to keep the car on the road after that because I locked up multiple times. But then I just upped the brake bias by 1, and I was alright for the rest of the lap. But through the last 2 sectors, I just needed to make sure I didn't invalidate because that would just like, put you down to last, and that would not be good.
Walk us through your fight with Piers at the end, because you had a very tense fight between him and yourself. Were you ever nervous about that fight?
Yeah, I was nervous through the whole lap. I was just didn't want to make contact with him because it was like going side by side into that turn 2, that little left-hander. I got a little bit beached on the curb and I got a little bit of oversteer, and I thought I was going to go into him, but we made minor contact, but it was nothing really. And then I was side by side with him into turn 3. Then turn 4, and then he got ahead of me into turn 5, but I seen his light flash and I just waited till the back straight.
Congratulations, mate. You did a fantastic job yet again. Like, I think it's your 3rd podium or 4th podium of the season. I can't exactly remember, but congratulations, mate. You did a fantastic job yet again. How are you finding this league, by the way, ever since you joined?
Very good. There's a lot of competition. It's like top 6, top 7, they're all mighty fast. So yeah, good, very good league and some really good competition, and very good commentators.
Do you think? Oh, thank you. Do you think in next season do you have a shot at the championship with the things how it's going?
I hope so. We'll just see how the new game pans out, I guess. I reckon some people's driving styles will be better than others on the new game. I think the people who can drive smoothly, I reckon it'll be a big reward on the next game. So yeah, hopefully next season I can challenge, but who knows?
Yeah, thank you, Cameron Dowds. That's enough for me. I've done with the questions now, Scott.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and congratulations once again to yourself, Cameron. A tremendous showing again tonight, really racking up the points once again for Mercedes, and definitely folks out there, one to watch for the future. I just hope he remembers the little people, those great commentators, like you said, when you make it to the big time. I'm never down for a free ticket to go anywhere, mate. But once again, congratulations. Jamie, though, I think we'll carry on here and round things up. Thank you very much for joining me in the comms box again tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, as it has been the whole season. 2 rounds to go. It's flew in. It feels like yesterday we kicked off at the start of the year. We're nearly at the halfway through this calendar year, getting very, very close to it. And of course, very close to the new game cycle. Only a month, I believe it is, on Saturday or Sunday to go until we get the new game out. So thank you once again for joining me, my friend.
Yes, okay, mate. No worries. It's always a pleasure.
But
I just saw Jav's comment about us too.
Oh yeah, yes, I picked on that. Either I chose not to speak about it. Jav, we do love the Spaniard Jav, of course, the relentless team owner. Very successful night for him, having 2 drivers on the podium, another one P4, and of course the other one of Mark, wherever he finished. Let's not talk about Mark. But thank you once again, everybody, not just the drivers, not just those in the comments, but the wider CRL community, for helping make things possible. Couldn't have done this without any of you here tonight, and it's an absolute honour to celebrate this race a week after the 2nd anniversary of CRL. Here's to many, many more. We head to Belgium for round number 14 next week. That kicks off with Tier 3 and Tier 4 on Monday night. 7:30 PM for Tier 3, 8 PM for Tier 4, and due to some, shall we say, dodgy driving, you may hear a familiar voice in the comms box on Monday night for Tier 4, potentially. Of course, if not, there will be the regulars of Rotation, BT, Wee Kami, and whoever else commentates for Tier 4. But Bimpy will be back, I'm assured, for Tier 3, the regular in Tier 3. Make sure to join in his comms and support him. All the love on Monday. Next Thursday, though, 7:30 PM, Tier 2 will be kicking off us on the Thursday night. Jonathan and Hedgehog here, regular hosts for the Belgium Grand Prix. Of course, the track picked by Hedgehog, the reigning Tier 4 champion. This was his driver selection as a champion for this season. So expect some great insight from the young Englishman in that commentary scenario. Me and Jamie, though, will be kicking you off at 8 PM next week for Tier 1, the creme de la creme, the Premier League of the CRL community. And I'm sure it's going to be an amazing Grand Prix where we may, just may, see the title wound up. I have been your host, CRL Freefall, better known as Scott, or as some prefer to say, Scotty. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honour, and I wish you all the very best of a night, weekend, and the rest of next week. Thank you all, and good night.